Hello, my name is Chris and I'm a U-Haul hitch professional. If you're planning on towing a trailer with your Hyundai Elantra, then you're going to need trailer wiring. It is required by the law. Now let's take a look at how we complete this install. You will need the following tools or supplies to complete this installation. Begin this installation with the trunk open and remove the cargo flooring. We're now going to remove 2 cargo net tie downs on the rear scuff panel. There is one on either side. They will simply twist loose. There is one trim clip in the center that you can use a retainer tool to remove. You can now remove the scuff panel by gently lifting it up and using your trim panel tool at the top for leverage if needed. On the driver's side, we will need more access for hiding the converter box. So we will remove the trim cover, but we will also remove this trim clip and this cargo net hook, as well this 10mm fastener. Use a 10mm socket for this fastener. You can now pull the trim away from the vehicle and expose the driver's side taillight connection. You must depress the tab, which is here on the extreme left side of the connector, in order to remove it. You can now remove your taillight access on the passenger side. You can remove the trim cover to gain access to the taillight harness. So as with before, reach in, depress the tab that is facing away from you, and disconnect the electrical connector. You can now connect the yellow and the brown connectors on the driver's side of the vehicle. Remember, on the vehicle end, the tab will face away from you. Now connect the tail light end. I'm going to use one of the tail light bolts to ground the white wire. Use a 10mm socket to loosen it. Place the ring terminal of the white wire over the post and re-secure the fastener. We can now pass our green and red connector to the passenger side of the vehicle. Because we didn't remove these 2 fasteners, we didn't need to. We just need to pass this connector through. Connect the taillight end first. Remember, the vehicle end tab will face away. We can now put the trim cover back and cover the tail light. Now let's pull any slack we have to the driver's side and use a couple of zip ties to connect it to this sensor. We're now ready to install our power wire. I'm going to be using the U-Haul exclusive Power Wire 1. It has pre-built-in protections for the wire, and so for that reason, I begin in the engine compartment and work my way backwards. We're gonna get power from our fuse panel right here. Open the fuse panel by depressing the 2 tabs. Use a 10mm socket to remove this fastener. When we make this connection, this lead will be hot, so let's go ahead and cover it with the cover now. Now place the ring terminal over the post and re-secure with the fastener. You can now press down on the fuse holder and lower its profile in order to return the fuse panel cover. Inside our fuse cover, we will find the location where the fuse holder is connected. We need to just make a slight trim right here, cutting off a little access. We're now ready to fish this end of our Power Wire 1 up the firewall. We're gonna find our brake master cylinder, and we're gonna follow the brake lines down with a fishing pole and retrieve this end and bring it back up. Use these high voltage wires as a guide. We're gonna pass the fishing pole right next to where they're at the bottom of the vehicle. Where the carpeted trim and the heat shield have a gap, you will see your orange high voltage wires. We need to get this end into the fishing pole, bring it to this point, and then tape your wire to it and pull it back up. Now route this end behind or underneath all these components along the way to your fuse holder. We can now connect the Power Wire 1. Use zip ties to secure the power wire while pulling all the slack to the rear of the vehicle. You can now use a 10mm socket to remove 3 fasteners from the carpeted trim, and you'll need a 14mm socket to remove 1 plastic fastener from near the rear. Gently pull down while loosening the plastic fastener to get it to free from the vehicle. This will give us access to hide the power wire and keep it secure for future adventures. We can now follow the brake lines all the way back. You can now reinstall all the fasteners you removed. At the rear of the vehicle, continue following the brake lines as they go around the gas tank and up and over any rear cross members or suspension components until we're at the rear driver's side and we find our grommet. Now at the rear of the vehicle, we need to lower this underbody panel to gain access to our grommet. There are several push fasteners that you can remove with a flathead screwdriver or a trim panel tool. And then there may or may not be, depending on the presence of a hitch, a 14mm plastic nut. You can now find this vented access grommet. You do not need to pull it or even cut it. Because it's vented, we can pass the power wire through and push all the slack into the vehicle. Use one final zip tie on your carbon canister line right here below the grommet, making sure all the slack is pulled into the vehicle when we tighten it down. If you need to, you can use a tool to pull the flap out so that it allows air out, but not much in. We can now return the underbody panel. We will need to slide this portion over the center underbody panel. We will need to make sure this fascia flap goes under the underbody panel and this panel flap goes over the fascia. Just like that. You can now reach in and if present, push on your 14mm plastic screw. You can now return your 5 trim clips. You can now connect the power wire to the converter box using a heat shrink butt connector. Melt the plastic using your heat source of choice. Now you can use the double-sided sticky tape to secure the converter box in an out-of-the-way location. Now pass the 4-flat connector and all the slack into the center of the vehicle. But first, let's secure this excess wiring with a zip tie. You can now replace your driver's side trim and re-secure it with the fasteners. Be sure to keep your 4-flat wire rear of this connection. Replace the taillight trim cover. You can now return the rear scuff panel. And now replace the 3 fasteners. Replace your cargo floor. Now when you need it, your 4-flat connector can be stretched out to your trailer or bike rack accessories, but kept secure in the trunk for future adventures. Coil the wires up and use the dust cover to secure them and store them under your floorboard. You can now install a 10 or 15 amp into the fuse holder. That concludes trailer wiring for your Hyundai Elantra. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to practice safe trailering, and we can't wait to see you out there. If you have any questions about the products seen in this video, or if you'd like to schedule an installation with your local U-Haul hitch professional, please visit us online at uhaulhitches.com. You can also download the U-Haul app using the link in the description for even more ways to manage your hitch and towing needs.